Welcome to Bet On. I am Kelly Stewart at Kelly in Vegas on Twitter. Let's bring in both of my favorite guys for the championship round of the playoffs. We have Marco D'Angelo at Marco in Vegas and Gianni at Greek_gambler. I'm sitting here with a really fake smile on my face because we all know I got my ass kicked last weekend and I just can't keep a good mood. I'm looking at this week's card. I'm going, I hate this whole card. What to do. VR is over there rubbing his hands together. VR, I'll let you have the floor first.
Oh, yeah. Kelly, forget it. You had a bad week. I had a worse week. Listen, I'm going to tell it like it is. I tell you when I win, and I'm going to tell you when I lose. And going into last weekend, I was already up for 2021. I'm coming off a 2020 where I finished #1 at WagerTalk. I'm very proud of that. It was my 3rd straight winning year, my 6th straight documented overall. Again, after last weekend, I'm now not profitable in 2021. I'll tell you that right now. As of 1/20/1921, 3 weeks into this new year, I'm negative for the year. That's just how it is. I'm not going to lie to you and say any different. And the reason for that is I had a terrible week in NFL last week. But the truth is, not that it's expected, but I gave over 300 plays this NFL season and hit 62%. In the playoffs prior to last week, I was 70% on 26 bets. Now I'm closer to 60%. All right. I'm not going to lie. I've always said it. I'm not going to do better than that. My 3% plays, 1 to 3%, I'm going to hit 55%. That's my goal. Small edges, long-term turn a profit. My best bets, I'm going to hit between 55 and 60 during my best years. So I'm ahead of actually where I need to be. But for guys that don't approach it that way, I could understand why someone that just buys for a weekend or wants a best bet would be disappointed or upset. And that's why I love taking opportunities like Stick to say, this ain't for everyone. And information source like myself isn't for everyone. You know, I do things, my goal is to win year after year. And I think when December 31st rolls around, we'll be doing this show next year. I think I put myself, I'll be favored to be profitable again. That's not guaranteed. I've done this a long time. And very few people can say they win year after year and 5, 6, 7 years. So I may lose in 2021. I know that going in. I just want to be straight with everybody as we go into this new week. And more importantly, the rest of this year. The guys that are on board that have been with me in the past, you know the goal, you know where we're going and how it turns out. I haven't released almost no 4% plays, no 5% plays in hoops. They're coming. And this week in UFC, the 4% are out, 5% are coming. So we're fine, Kel. I just want to, we talk about it when we win. So we should tell it when we lose. And last week, I got killed. The only game I got right was Cleveland. That was it.
And I felt very lucky to get that Cleveland game right. I had +10, and I hated it from the get-go, even worth all the reverse line movement before close. Marco has a big smile on his face. Marco, tell everyone how your weekend was. Were you the bright spot of us three?
Well, no, Kelly. I went, maybe if I say I lost the least, I went 1-2 in the football. But basketball was not good last week. I'm not going to kid anybody. Basketball was a rough week for me. We went 1-2 in the NFL. Fortunately, the 2 losers were 3% plays. The winner was a 5% play. But, remember, guys, and this is a good, point. Ace brings up a lot of good points for you guys to take note of. We preach about long-term packages, why it's good to be on long-term. There's pros and cons to long-term. One of the pros, obviously, is you're going to be there for everything. That means the good and the bad. But if you're with somebody that you trust, somebody that you like the style of handicapping they use or what they do, if you like somebody that's high volume, you go with a high volume guy. If you like somebody that's low volume, you go with them. You go with what is in your comfort zone and you ride that guy out. And that's how you make money. I always used to use the saying that guys that jump from service to service because they wait to see somebody on a hot streak, then they jump on them. The problem is, by the time you jump on people sometimes, the train left the station, okay? You miss the majority of that hot run where that's when you maximize your profits. And then, you get a little bit of regression and you go, oh my, yeah, same old story. No, it's not the same old story. It's just you weren't there for the whole picture. And that's why we really try to discount long-term packages at WagerTalk to, protect yourself from yourself and sign up with somebody that you're comfortable with. If you're not comfortable with the person you sign up with, it doesn't matter how good it's going to be, because every time you disagree with a play, it's going to cause you a problem. What do? Do you play your own play, or do you play the guy that you signed up for? And then you start picking and choosing, and somebody could end up with that magical 55, 56% that we all strive for. And I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but over a course of a year, Kelly, you do that consistency, you never have to work a day in your life if you can just hit that 56%. We all know that. But if you start picking and choosing games, that one game, how many times has Ace come on and said, every 20 games, if I go 11-9, we did the profit. We made the money. But if you make that one wrong guess on the disagreement, all of a sudden, it's that winning edge becomes a losing edge. And that's what, we try to do. We want to, teach you guys how to be better bettors, use, aces. We want you to make better bets. And that's what it's about. But in the end, you have to be comfortable with what you're going to do, because you're not always going to agree with us. We're going to have difference of opinions, and you got to, trust the process that we use. And like I said, I came out of the football week, 1-2, but with the ratings, I'm okay with that. We've had a great, start to 2021 with that. But, the basketball last week was an embarrassment. No question about it. We bounced back this week, and let's get to these games today.
Yes, Marco, let's get to these games and figure out what the hell I'm going to bet this weekend. I know our producer is probably like, Kelly, can you put your best bet in the spreadsheet when I just want to write a bunch of expletives in there instead? Because that is exactly how I felt on Sunday night when I ended up on the Saints. It is what it is. One of the things that we did tweet out at WagerTalk I really liked and I wanted to touch on before we got into this week's games were the possible Super Bowl matchups from the Westgate Superbook. So really quickly, I'm going to go over those. Kansas City versus the Packers. Kansas City would be a 1.5-point favorite, total 57. Kansas City versus the Bucs. Kansas City would be a 3-point favorite, total 55.5. On the flip side, the Buffalo Bills would be a 1-point underdog to the Green Bay Packers, total 55. And the Bills would be a pick'em versus the Bucs, total 54. I wanted to get your guys' takes on these as well prior to going into the games, because I do think that maybe there is some significance here, and it kind of tells a little bit of a tale. VR, I'm going to start with you first. I mean, basically, this is like Kansas City is going to be the favorite,
AFC's favorite,
no matter
yeah,
what.
It's telling you that. They're telling us AFC's about a -120, -125 favorite right now over the NFC. In the Super Bowl. It depends how it's going to turn out, obviously, but that's what the math will probably, I don't have a calculator in front of me, but that seems what the math will probably turn out to be based on those spreads you just shared. And I kind of agree with that because let me look real quick based on my power ratings. That is what I got as well, at least up at the top. And all four of these teams deserve to be there. That's the key here, that it's not a team that's come out of nowhere. Except for New Orleans, who I had up at the top power rated. Now they're out of the way. And I had KC on top. I had Baltimore right there with Buffalo, Green Bay. So, yeah, I agree with that. AFC should be favored around a -125 favorite, maybe. What that tells me, how do you take advantage this weekend? Probably if you want to bet the favorite in the AFC, Kansas City, bet look at what the odds are for them to win the Super Bowl, because they're going to be favored in the Super Bowl. So now you'll be able to get them at plus money, where for the Super Bowl, they'll be minus on the money line if they get there. So it's probably better if you like Kansas City on Sunday. And if you like Kansas City, if you're thinking of betting them in the Super Bowl, just bet them now. Instead of even betting the championship game, just bet Kansas City at whatever. As long as they're better than 2-1, that's the bet to make. If you like that side to win the Super Bowl, don't even wait till the Super Bowl. If you like Buffalo, you're better off waiting and betting Buffalo now on the money line and then waiting for the Super Bowl because they're going to be a dog to either Tampa Bay or Green Bay. Most likely, I think so. It depends how it plays out because if they beat Kansas City, it'll probably be because Mahomes got hurt, got knocked out of the game, or didn't play. I can't see them dominating Kansas City with Mahomes looking great and them looking so good that they're favored in the Super Bowl over Tom Brady or Rodgers. I just can't see it. So I think that's how you play the AFC. Real quickly, in the NFC, the way I would play it based on that, I don't think there's really a future involved. I think you're stuck playing the game on Sunday because the AFC is going to decide it, whether the AFC is going to be favored or not. If KC goes, they're favored over either team. If Buffalo goes, they're going to be a dog. I think so, over the NFC. So you're stuck betting the NFC game Sunday if you want action.
All right, Marco, yeah, it does. Marco, your thoughts on these early lines? I was kind of looking at them and thinking, okay, this is what I want to cheer for in the Super Bowl, or this is what the Super Bowl futures look like, at least in my household. I may not have a ticket, but I do have to cheer for other people's bets sometimes, even if I don't want to. And I'm trying to figure out if it makes more sense for me to bet one of these early Super Bowl lines, like Ace said, or whether you just bet this weekend. Your thoughts are, is there any value for you on either one of these four matchups?
Well, for me, the value that I see here, there's two ways to look at this. First of all, I like to look at this and see what the bookmaker is thinking, okay, and get what my reaction is. My reaction when I saw the four possible matchups was that they gave Buffalo more respect than I thought Buffalo would get. Granted, there's, an underdog this week, but if they advance, you're looking in one scenario, they're a pick 'em, in the other scenario, they're a 1-point underdog. I can almost guarantee you that if they do win and get to the Super Bowl, they're not going to be only a pick 'em or a 1-point dog. There'll be more because I don't care if it's Tom Brady or it's Aaron Rodgers. The narrative's going to be this is Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills' first shot at the Super Bowl for Buffalo since those glory years with Marv Levy where they went 0-4 in the Super Bowl. It'll be the first attempt for Josh Allen in the Super Bowl, and we know the history that first-time quarterbacks generally don't do well in the Super Bowl. So you will get Buffalo at a bigger number come Super Bowl Sunday if they are a participant. But Vegas has given them some respect with the number. Now, to touch on what Ace said, if you do like Buffalo and you want to bet a future on Buffalo, do not bet the future on what it is right now. Do a money line parlay because you're getting them plus money this week and you will most definitely get them plus money in the Super Bowl. It will return a greater profit just rolling it over. The second one that I would say is if you like Tampa Bay, do the same thing. Do a money line parlay with Tampa Bay because in either instance here, right now, well, I'll take that back because Tampa Bay is a pick 'em, but I do believe Tampa Bay will end up being a favorite if they match up against Buffalo. There's no way the public is going to not bet Tom Brady versus Josh Allen. Pure and simple. So with Tampa Bay being that they are an underdog this week, do the math and figure it out. They would probably end up being a 1.5, 2-point favorite against Buffalo and see how that would work out in the number. Obviously, if they're against Kansas City, doing the money line parlay with them just rolling it over is the better way to go with Tampa Bay. But for me, I'm not going to do anything with the futures. I'm going to bet each game on its own. And as we get into these games and break them down, I'll save Ace the problem because this week I'm there too. We're going to break these games down on Wednesday. It is Wednesday, people. There are a lot of question marks to be filled in between now and Sunday, especially with the Kansas City game, obviously with Mahomes' condition in availability. Betting man, if they put up a yes or no, I would bet everything I had on the yes that he's going to play, no matter what's going to happen. But as we break it down, there might be some different things to consider, even with him playing when we break the game down. So tread cautiously. But if you do like Buffalo, the move is bet them right now, straight up, and then roll that money over in the Super Bowl.
All right, I appreciate your guys' opinions. I'm going to take a little audible here and go to a commercial break. When we return, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the NFC Championship game.
Every Monday at WagerTalk.com, all plays are just $9. This even includes top-rated 5% plays, which normally sell for $40. There's no better day to get winning picks than $9 Mondays at WagerTalk.com and our sister site, SportsMemo.com. Get $25 in WagerBucks added to your account after your first purchase at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com. This is just our way of saying thank you for joining the WagerTalk and SportsMemo family.
Welcome back to Bet On It. All right, guys, let's break down this NFC Championship game. I've got my WagerTalk odds screen open right now. It looks like 3.5s pretty much across the board. 3 minus 125 over at William Hill. Same thing with a couple of offshores for the Green Bay Packers. Total 51. Marco, I'm going to go to you first. I was dead wrong on this game. I tweeted out when I saw the Westgate come out at 4. I said, if you want to bet Green Bay, you better bet them now. I am shocked that this game is 3 minus 125 at places 3.5, depending on where it is. I really thought that this line was low when it came out. I really thought that we would see a lot more Packers money. Your thoughts on the NFC Championship?
I agree with you 100%, Kelly. I thought for me to see the initial buy go down shocked me on this one because, it is Green Bay. It is Aaron Rodgers. It is Lambeau Field. And you look at the two games, was the Tampa Bay defense as good as they looked on Sunday, or was it a case of the New Orleans offense looking that bad? That's the question. And the turnovers, no question, was the deciding factor in the game. You can't have 4 turnovers and win a playoff game. You can't have 4 turnovers and win a normal game generally, let alone a playoff game. But this game came down to, with everything that was said in all of the good defenses, both quarterbacks struggled. It's not like Tom Brady lit it up. He only had 199 yards. And the big three each only had 1 catch. Evans, AB, and Gronk each had 1 catch only. So they took away, the bread and butter for Tom Brady and the Bucs. What I look in this game is the 2 opening drives that the Saints had. They settled for a field goal on the first one when they were driving, a good drive, and had to settle for the field goal. That was a win for Tampa. And then the second one, they run a kickback for a touchdown, and there's a block in the back. Changes that. Then they end up drive it anyways, and settle for a second field goal. Kelly, we've all been there. How many times have you had a game where you've got the favorite and you've got 2 dominating drives and you look up at the scoreboard and it's 6-0 and you go, oh, you know what? This isn't going to be good because we are 1 play away from, trailing. The game came down to the fumble, midfield, up 7 for the Saints and driving. At that point, if the Saints get points on the board, I think the game's over. They fumbled the ball and Tampa Bay took advantage of it. So now with that and what we watched, I thought public perception would be that, Tampa was kind of lucky to win that game, and they're going to look at Green Bay and see they put up 30-some points on the number 1 defense in the country. Green Bay had their way with the Rams. Was it the Rams that didn't like the cold weather? Whatever. You can draw whatever conclusion you want. Green Bay's playing good football right now. And if you look at Green Bay's defense, again, you got to look at some of the competition, but you can only play who's in front of you. This is a team that's played good defense. In the last, how many games now? 4 in a row. They've allowed 18 points or less. I'm leaning to Green Bay here in this one simply because of the number. This is value for me. I personally have the game rated higher, but I will tell you, there's some people that I respect a lot in this business that are on the Tampa Bay side. And you saw that with the early movement on the money. We talk about it every week on the show. Early movement at the beginning of the week, especially on the dog, is not, square money. So with that, we'll talk a little more about this game later in the show. But right now, I'm on the Green Bay side.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning with you there, Marco. I haven't gotten to the window. I don't like the movement here. Maybe Ace has got something for us. Has he seen something in his accounts? What the hell is going on with this game, VR? I literally thought we'd see 4.5, 5, 6 by kickoff. I mean, unless my numbers that I use are just dead wrong here,
real quickly, let me tell you this. I haven't placed a single bet on this weekend's games, but I really do expect to get down. I have some strong opinions, but last week I got slapped. I got reprimanded. I went in cocky. I felt strongly with my own opinions. I saw some short money that confirmed it, and I bet them with confidence. And later in the week, especially on game day, I saw some money come in the other way. Now, if I hadn't been as cocky because I was doing so well all season, maybe I would have waited, and that maybe I wouldn't have bet as much. Maybe I would have, I don't know. But the thing is, I now see no reason to rush into this weekend's games as far as beating a number. We see where it's at. And I want to see what the guys I work with do, because after last week, when I saw they came in on the under and I was already on the over, I was on the wrong side. They came in on Tampa. I was on the other side. When that line went, that's why it closed 2.5. So again, that's why I'm not rushing. But I'll tell you what I like and why. First off, all week I keep hearing all the talk about last week's games. Listen, we watched these guys play 17 games already this season. Why? What does last week's games have to do with anything that's going to happen next week, except for injuries? That's the only thing we should be taking from last week are injuries, because we have a sample size now of stats of 17 weeks. So last week for me means absolutely nothing. Who's here now is here. What does matter again are the injuries. Otherwise, one game, we know that already. We say it all the time during the season. One result is random. Perfect example. We see it this year in college basketball, where these teams are playing each other within 24 hours on the same court. Team A wins by 20 on one night. Team B wins by 20 on the next night. So who was really better? And that's the randomness of a single game outcome. Now, well, fortunately, we're in the playoffs and we have a huge sample of stats and data. And here's what the data tells us. Green Bay has the number one scoring offense. Tampa has number 3. I think Tampa's numbers are more legit because I think Green Bay went against a lot of weak secondaries. And then scoring defenses. Tampa's number 8, Green Bay's number 13. Again, I give Tampa the nod. Not only are they higher ranked, but I think they had the tougher offensive opponents. Yards per play, very comparable offensively. Defensively, Tampa Bay's 7th, Green Bay 13th. Again, Tampa Bay looking better, a lot better on the defensive side of the ball. Finally, turnover margin. Both are positive. Every single game, meaning they have a positive margin game by game. Plus 0.4 for Green Bay, plus 0.7 for Tampa. Two teams that benefited from turnovers, but weren't too lucky, so they deserve to be here. What does that whole mix of stats tell us? I believe that the better defense is Tampa Bay. I believe the stats that show Green Bay may be a little bit better. If you weigh for strength of schedule, that isn't the case. And then finally, let's throw home field advantage completely out the window. Why? Because we got Tom Brady, baby. He's been playing in Foxborough his entire career. Cold weather? What's that? Are you kidding me? He's going to go out there and warm up in a T-shirt. This isn't Jeff Goff with 15 pins in his hand, who as soon as it goes below 40 can't grip a football. Why did I bet the Rams knowing that? Ask me that later. Who knows? But again, Brady, I like that, getting the points. But at 3.5, get 3.5 or leave it. I don't want to hear 3. I like the 3.5. And here's why. Since 2015, that's when they moved that 2-point conversion nonsense. Moved the 1 point back. The 3 matters so much. And both these games are on 3. When a line's been 2.5, 3, or 3.5, the game's landed 3 1 out of 4 times, 24 point something %. I saw someone put that out there. It was a beautiful, beautiful trend. Someone else's proprietary data that I just took. Great trend. I wish I could give credit to who had that. Again, I like the Tampa side. I lean under as well. I liked under in both games a little bit. I haven't bet either. That's just my first inkling. I thought the totals, playoff game, we'll see if I get to the window with either of those. We'll see if I even get to the window with Tampa Bay. But that's what I lean in that game.
All right, VR brought it up. Trends and angles. That's right. It's now time for some TNA with Ralph Michaels. Have you ever wanted to create your own WagerTalk Dream Team? We're excited to announce you can build your own superstar handicapping lineup using our Pick Your Team program at WagerTalk.com. Even more exciting, for a limited time, you can save up to 55% on your favorite 2 or 3 handicappers and pay as little as $1.99 for a full month of picks. Dave Koken, Marco D'Angelo, Gianni the Greek, Ralph Michaels, Teddy Covers, Hakeem Prophet, Tony Finn, Rob Vino, Brian Leonard. The combinations are endless. Who will make your dream team lineup? Just go to WagerTalk.com, click Pick Your Team, and personally hand select your handicapping roster. Our Dream Team promotion is only being offered for a little limited time before going back to regular price, so please make sure to take advantage of this incredible offer. Hey, it's my favorite guy, Ralph Michaels. It is championship weekend for the playoffs. Ralph, I already stated when we started the show, I hate this week's card. Give me something. I know there's got to be some TNA here. Push me towards one way or another. I know. What have you dug up for me this week?
Well, I want to give you some general numbers too, Kel, to give people an idea. Home team since 2000 in this round, 28-12 straight up, 56% against the spread. Nothing wow. Over-unders have gone 61.5%. When we do have home favorites of 4 or more, I doubt we'll get there this year because it looks like they'll both be under that. Home favorites of 4 or more are 20-3 straight up, 16-7 ATS. When I look at those numbers since 2013, home teams 10-2 straight up, 8-4 against the spread. Let's talk some specific scenarios. Again, there's only 2 games, guys. There's not a lot of wow numbers. But if you think, okay, if you had the question, here's what I want to try to do. You are looking at a specific scenario. I want to try to give you the answer. A team like Tampa Bay that played both of their first 2 games on the road, the wild card and last week, those teams only 3-7 straight up, 2-7-1 against the spread the last 10. Going back a little further, 4-14 straight up, 5-13 against the spread. How does a team like Buffalo do that allowed only 6 points last round? It's only happened 8 times the last 20 years. Those teams have gone 5-3 straight up, 5-2-1 against the spread. How about teams? Tampa Bay, here's a unique situation. Tampa Bay had 7 or fewer wins last year, so they were not in the playoffs. Teams that go from 7 or fewer wins one year to the playoffs, 2-9 straight up, 3-8 against the spread, and that included, that's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is one we talked about last week, Kelly, and it is the only wow number on here. Teams that played in the NFL Championship game, like the NFC or AFC Championship games, and lost, like Green Bay last year, are 34-15 against the spread. If they are facing a team off a double-digit win, remember we mentioned this angle last week. Green Bay was facing the Rams, who were off a double-digit win. Those teams are now 22-3 against the spread, and that is Green Bay again in the situation. So Green Bay covered last week in the situation, and they're in that same spot again, being a conference champion loser and at home in the playoffs. Now here's a few from John Ryan, a friend of mine, at John Ryan Sports #1. You can find him at sportsmemo.com. He also has these all on his Twitter. Reigning Super Bowl champs from week 13 on, when they're a small favorite of 4.5 or less, 8, 19-1, 33% against the spread. Favorites in the championship game that were not in the playoff the previous season, facing a team that has gone abysmal. I'm trying to read his, excuse me. A favorite in the championship game. Teams that were not in the playoffs the previous year facing a team that was in the playoffs. I mentioned a record just a minute ago for teams that were not in the playoffs like Tampa Bay. If you were not in the playoffs against a team who was in the playoffs, you've gone 3-10. That's a bad record for Tampa Bay. 9-4 to the over. 4 more, Cal. Teams that won their game but were out-yarded by 100 yards or more, like Buffalo, and they're a dog up to 4.5. They're only 1-5 against the spread. Another good Green Bay one, or anti-Tampa Bay one, quarterbacks that threw for 55% or less in 2 consecutive playoff games like Brady has. If they're on the road, they are only 5-10 ATS, and they are 9-5 to the under. And finally, red zone. Road teams with the lower success percentage are only 4-17 against the spread, 33%. That is Tampa Bay. Green Bay was number 1 in red zone efficiency. Tampa Bay was number 7. So the teams with the lower red zone percentage in this round, 7-14 ATS, 33%, 5-16 straight up. I think, Cal, that gives you probably 4 negative Tampa Bays and at least 2 positive Green Bays. So clearly, without trying to cherry pick which angles we used, going through this information clearly slants the Green Bay Packers.
Appreciate you, Ralph, as always, coming in with great information at Cal Sports LV. Ralph puts out a ton of information. He's got a college basketball guide, an NBA guide, and now I just saw on our WagerTalk page an NHL sheet for today, so make sure you guys head over there. Check out all of Ralph's stuff up at WagerTalk.com. Have you ever checked out the expert handicappers at SportsMemo.com? If not, we have a deal that is impossible to pass up. Right now, you can get every pick from 12 different handicappers this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for only $99. This includes all sports, all 5% releases from 12 different handicappers for 3 full days. In the history of WagerTalk, Gold Sheet, and Sports Memo, we've never had a deal this good, and the odds are we never will again. All NBA, all college basketball, all NHL, NFL, and soccer, all sports, all 12 handicappers this weekend only at sportsmemo.com. Welcome back to Bet On It. All right, now over to the AFC Championship game. The Buffalo Bills at the Kansas City Chiefs. This one opened 4, now down to 3 pretty much everywhere. Flat, maybe some 3 minus 105, depending on where you like to shop. Total open 56, down to 54, and we're even seeing some 53.5s pop up. Maybe VR was right when he was talking about leaning towards that under there. VR, your thoughts on the AFC Championship game?
Ooh, and did you see that steam come in on Kansas City when they adjusted and put it down at a pick'em towards the end of that game? Because the line was expected to open KC -4. And then when Mahomes got knocked out and the game ended, the books broke it down at pick'em a lot of places. And it got bet up quickly. Listen, without knowing whether Mahomes is going to play, you can't bet this game. Unless you like the Buffalo side already. Now you have to bet it now. If you like Buffalo, don't wait. Do not wait. Get to the window right now. Don't even watch the rest of this video. Start calling your bookie. You don't do that anymore. I mean, get online and start betting your Buffalo side now. Here's why. Because if Mahomes plays, that's what this line reflects. Again, if he plays, they're going to say he's fine. They're not going to say how fine he is. We already know if this was regular season, he wouldn't be playing. He's the franchise. He's got a concussion. I had the privilege of being at the Apex this week because it's Conor McGregor week. So I've done a lot of work with the UFC. And there's trainers there. There's professional athletes there. And every single one of them to a T said there is absolutely no way after a concussion that within 7 days you should ever go out there and play football again. That they wouldn't go in, that if you got hit again, the percentage, the probability that your lights are going to go out quickly are very high. That's why they make you sit for a long time. That's why when fighters get knocked out, you don't want your fighter getting back in there for a while. You want to give them a long time out because the lights get turned out a lot faster if you don't allow time. We all know that. So I don't know. I mean, it looks like they're going to put pressure and they're going to make him play because the Super Bowl's on the line. But the health of Mahomes is what matters. They can't win without him. Without him, Kansas City will be a home dog. So you're going to have to lay points with Buffalo if he doesn't play. If he does play, it's probably going to be what it's sitting at right now because they're telling us he's playing more or less with that line. So I think if you like Buffalo, bet it now. Here's what I like. Without knowing if he's playing, I'm going on the presumption he's playing. And if he's playing, he's well enough to play and that he could at least take a few hits. And I lean the KC side at home. I think you're asking a lot from Buffalo and this young quarterback to continue this trajectory of winning playoff games as more or less a playoff rookie and now doing it on the road against a Super Bowl champ. And let's not forget, And I just came off saying, and I don't want to contradict myself about last week's game doesn't matter. But the one thing that did stick out from last week's game, because we may give Buffalo the accolades of winning and all that, they scored one offensive touchdown. They got a great offense. I get it. But their offense didn't put up 40 points, 7 touchdowns last week. That didn't happen. They're capable. Yeah, we know that. It's in the data. But again, you're asking a lot. So for me, if you're that one-dimensional, I think the Super Bowl champs should have an answer. You rushed for 32 yards on 16 carries last week. You shouldn't be able to win 3 playoff games in a row without being able to do anything but throw the football. Prove me wrong. Will I get to the window? Time will tell. But I lean Kansas City.
I'm with VR here. I also lean Kansas City. I don't know. This one's, as I mentioned, this week's card is super tough, Marco. Hopefully you have some better clarity on this game. I don't want to buy into a one-game sample size, and I think Buffalo's come a long way since that primetime game in Buffalo versus the Chiefs. But the Chiefs absolutely dominated that game. And as VR said, last week, the Buffalo offense really struggled, and that's why I was on the Ravens. I thought, hey, the Ravens are going to have a chance to keep this close because I think this defense is going to be able to stifle this offense. And half of it got there. Pick 6 was pretty much the difference maker. Your thoughts on the AFC Championship game?
Well, I was very happy with that pick 6 because that was the play of the game. It turned the game around, a 14-point swing on one play. And that's what led Buffalo to the victory. And that's what a lot of people are going to look at here. But I'm going to go, when I break this game down, I'm going to look at it in a little different way. Yeah, the Buffalo offense struggled last week. But you could also say the Buffalo defense played tremendous last week. They shut down Lamar Jackson. Well, the rebuttal to that would be, well, it was Lamar Jackson. He's not a passing threat. And you're right, he's not. And that was the difference in the game. They couldn't make the big pass plays when they needed to, Baltimore, to keep drives alive. This week, that'll be a different story. There's more offensive weapons on the field for Kansas City. And the question, obviously, is Mahomes. As I alluded to, if I'm a betting man, I'm betting everything I got that he plays this week. Now, will I bet if they change the game plan at all? That's a different story because they're going to tell him to get rid of the ball quick. They're going to tell him don't tuck the ball and run. 2 reasons. Obviously, the concussion, but let's not forget, before the concussion, he hurt his toe, and you saw him visibly limping around on the field. He wasn't as mobile. So that's a little bit of a problem too. But let's also look at the fact, and everybody is going to point out the fumble through the end zone. Cleveland could have won that football game. Yeah, they could have. But let's also remember it was a 19-3 game at one point, total control of Kansas City, and they were on the verge of blowing Cleveland completely out of the water. So I am not that concerned about Kansas City. And something that's not being talked about, and I'm going to bring it up, we've heard all year long that home field advantage doesn't mean anything this year, that most people are only giving home field about a half a point of line value. Well, you know what? That was the case all year. But if you watch the 2 games at Buffalo in the playoffs and you watch the Kansas City game last week, home field does matter now. They're letting more people in. It's still did. But I'll tell you what, the fans in Buffalo, that stadium sounded like it was 3/4 full instead of 6,700 or whatever it was. And Kansas City had the most of any game so far, and they were loud in that game. It's going to be loud for Buffalo coming into KC. And let's not forget, this is Josh Allen's first time on this big of a stage. As much as I love Josh Allen, and I said he should have been in consideration for the MVP because there's no team that relied more on one player than Buffalo did with him. They go as far as Josh Allen takes them. The narrative in all pro sports, we've seen it over and over again. It's a stepping stone. It's not very often you see teams come from nowhere and go all the way to the Super Bowl and win it. They get so far and then either lose the conference championship or lose that first trip to the Super Bowl, whatever. Mahomes, as good as he's been, it took him a couple cracks at New England and Brady before they got over the hump to get to the Super Bowl. That's what I'm looking at here with Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. 3 for this number. I don't disagree with Ace very often, but he said about getting the Buffalo number. If you like Buffalo, get them now. If you want to ensure you get 3, yes. I think they put this number at a number that they believe Mahomes is going to play. If Mahomes doesn't play, the line comes down, and yes, you want to grab Buffalo. But as we get later in the week and the public gets involved, which they have not yet, and they see him upgraded to probable, the public is going to go to Kansas City, and I think it gets back to the 3.5. I just think that's where it'll go because the public's got to come with KC. Now, the public doesn't like KC as much as they used to because everybody that's bet Kansas City has not cashed a ticket since week 8. Okay? So it's funny how people get that way. You know, they don't look at each game on its merit. They just look like, yeah, bastards cost me again. And they did last week. But I just look at that home field and I look at Kansas City. So right now I'm leaning to KC, but here's the difference, I think, this week. Last week, you saw a low-scoring game in Buffalo. And then you saw what happened with Kansas City when Mahomes went out last week. Well, again, they had a 19-3 lead. Andy Reid, the old Andy Reid, came back to haunt us. You know, he took the foot off the gas until he had to, and give him credit. How many coaches go 4th and 1 at midfield with the lead and not punt the ball away? I know what Mike Tomlin would have done, unfortunately. But Andy Reid went for the win. He put what he felt was the best play he could call, and he didn't run it. He put the ball in Chad Henne's hands to close the game out. And I think this week you're going to see more scoring. If this game would have been without the low-scoring events of last week and Mahomes getting dinged up, we would have saw a much higher total in this game. I think there's value in the over, and this is one of those games where there's no tomorrow. If Buffalo falls behind, you saw them throwing left and right last week against Baltimore. They'll do it even more here, and I think they'll score. And then Kansas City's got to answer. I'm going to give you, for my lean here, I'm going to look at the over in this game, and I'm going to probably do a couple combinations. Over for the game and over for Kansas City team total, because you're getting a benefit with that question mark on Mahomes' ability to be here. They're going to do the game plan. He will not take the ball out of Chad Henne's hands if he has to go with Chad Henne. He'll have a game plan that'll be comfortable for him as well. And Kelly, let's not forget, if it is Chad Henne, injured player theory. KC.
You know, I do. I do. See, I can't even talk. Marco's got me so flabbergasted at the idea that I may have a Chad Henne ticket in my pocket. I can't even talk. I don't know. We're gonna get to the best bets segment here after we take a quick commercial break. Did you know every Tuesday is $2 Tuesday at WagerTalk.com? We pick the hottest handicapper and offer his best bet for just $2. This is a great way to introduce yourself to the winning handicappers at WagerTalk and SportsMemo.com. Welcome back to Bet On. It is time for best bets, and I'm going to disappoint you guys. I don't have a best bet. We already said this at the beginning of the show. This is a Wednesday. I need a little bit more time for a magnitude of reasons here, and I may end up coming up with something. We'll see how things play out. So I'm going to take a pass here, but I promise I will tweet out a video of some capacity giving you guys a best bet for championship weekend. VR, I know you're kind of sitting in the same boat as me, but you do have a best bet for the show, but you will be also releasing bets for these games for your subscribers for this weekend.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get to the window with some strong plays. I'm going to give a best bet for the show. That's what we've done throughout this season. Pretty good record there, and hopefully keep it going. I hate going against Marco. Last week, I held off and didn't do it, and we both ended up losing. And I didn't give Cleveland to not go against them because I was worried, and we both lost. So I just got to go with what I do like. I like Tampa Bay. I gave you all the reasons for it. That's why I like it. Make sure you get the 3.5, even if it costs you minus 120 to do so, because I just told you why 3 is so important.
All right, I got that written down right now. VR on Tampa Bay. Again, stressing the importance of buying good numbers here, making sure that you guys are getting the best of it. All right, Marco, I'm ready. Who's your best bet for this week in the championship round?
Well, as of Wednesday, my best bet right here for the show is Green Bay. I just think this number, I got to trust my numbers, Kelly. This is a value play for me. I'm like you. I thought this line would have been 4.5 and maybe even get this game to 5 with it. I know Tampa beat them the first time, Kelly, but if you remember that game, you and I both were on Tampa Bay. The first 2 drives of that game, we were not happy. It was 10-0 Green Bay, and they had the football. It was a pick 6 that turned that game completely around, and it was one of the rare times that I saw Aaron Rodgers quit. He quit in the second half of that football game. I'm going to go ahead and tell him to get his revenge here at home. 3 is a number that I just think is too low, and it's a value play.
All right, value upon value upon value. Again, guys, appreciate everybody hanging out with us on Bet On It all season long. We will be back for the Super Bowl. Hopefully we have an entire Super Bowl prop show as well, because those are some of my favorite things to bet on in regard to the Super Bowl. Make sure you guys head over to WagerTalk.com. Get both of these guys premium plays, and as promised, I will have a best bet up at some point in time this week for your viewing pleasure, for your fading pleasure, whatever it may be. Let's have a better week, guys. Until next time, let's bet on it.